Welcome back. We're getting further and further down the rabbit hole of truth, one might call it. I don't know who'd call it that, but I would. So me. And we would need to name who the other person who could have perpetrated the crime other than Soseki Natsumi. And what we've followed so far is very much like Joan would have thrown a knife that accidentally hit the window, flew down and stabbed someone in the back. The victim, which is Olive Green. The victim of this case, who was found with a knife in her back. So, you know, she's still alive at the moment, as far as we know.
Take that!
The defense would once again like to request the cross-examination of a new witness, my lord. Once again? My assistant made the same request earlier. In order to finally reveal the truth about this case, it's imperative that we cross-examine juror number 4, Miss Joan Garrett. Me? Me? Oh, dearie me.
Objection!
The request has already been denied.
Objection!
But the situation is very different now. Mrs. Garadeb, answer me this. What do you want now, you little toad? At the time of the incident, you were engaged in a violent argument with your husband, Mr. John Garadeb. In the course of the argument, a minor house fire was ignited. And to clear the smoke from the room, your husband opened a window that looks out over Briar Road. Well, what of it? You threw this book at your husband, and he was cornered with his back against the window. On striking the pane of the open top hinged casement window, the book plummeted directly down, finding its way to what we now know to be the true scene of the incident. Yes, and as I said, what of it? During the argument, you were beside yourself with rage. As such, you threw not just books, but anything you could lay your hands on. So, let me ask you one more time, Mrs. Garadeb. This knife, the one removed from the victim's back, have you really never laid eyes on it before? Yay. I don't recall it. Seriously. Am I supposed to remember everything I picked up and threw at my husband? And anyway, the man over there in all that regalia said members of the jury needn't testify, didn't he? Conveniently. Yes?
Objection!
No, I have no recollection of saying that at all. Juror number 4. Oh! Make no mistake. You jurors are not special in any way. You're not immune to the judicial process. If you know something about this knife, madam, let the truth come out. But that's just a common garden knife. It couldn't have come from anywhere. We have several like that at home. If one went missing, how would you expect me to know? What's that? Are you joking? What are you saying, please, Mrs. Garadeb? To whom? My? Now, you listen to me. I refuse to believe all this nonsense. I couldn't bear the thought that I'd injured someone. Do you hear? I couldn't bear it. Oh, the poor woman. So, yes, I want evidence. I want to see hard evidence if you're going to insist on this being my fault. And you're going to have to prove to me that I threw that knife, if that's what you think. Come along now. Chop chop. Do your worst. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, if I had evidence like that, believe me, I would have thrown it at her already. Then take the stand, juror. Oh. The prosecution does not object to the defense's request to cross-examine this woman. Thank you, Lord Van Zykes. I'm going to have to testify? Juror number 4, as I am sure you will appreciate having observed it with your own eyes today. Witness testimony can lead to the most extraordinary truths being unearthed. Truths of which the witness is themselves may not even have been aware. Oh, dearie me. So I demand your full and unadulterated testimony, Mrs. Garrideb. And mark my words, in this court of law today, we shall extract the truth. Do you concur, counsels? Certainly, my lord. Oh, that's what I'm hoping for, my lord. Oh, more triumphant kind of music. This is such a strange feeling. For the first time since arriving in this country, it actually feels real. I'm here, in the Old Bailey, and I'm a lawyer. Witness, state your name and occupation. Oh, yes, my name is Joan Garrideb. And I'm a juror, and such like. Sounds like even she doesn't know if she's a housewife or a maid or what anymore. The court has decided your testimony is required in order to clarify matters in this case. Do you understand, madam? Yes, my lord. You will tell the court everything that took place in your household on the evening in question. And I warn you, do not attempt to hide the truth. Oh dearie me. Chin up, Jody. Nothing to worry about now. He's got his medal on. Oh, I didn't know you were here, John. Wasn't only you in the room that day, old thing, was it? Rather think I ought to testify as well, don't you? But what about your knee, dear? Don't you worry about that. Hardly notice it. I'm not the sort of chap to leave a comrade face disciplinary action alone. Oh, John. I presume you are Mr. John Garrideb? Yes, sir. Former second lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment of the 4th Northumberland Fusiliers, sir. Seen my fair share of action, now living the quiet life, as it were. The quiet life? Are you not engaged in a sentry battle with your spouse on the day in question? Ah, well, yes. Quite. I believe this may represent a first in the proud history of the British court. Calling a juror to the witness stand is unprecedented. However, the court will hear your testimony now, juror number 4, and that of your husband. You will recount clearly and concisely the events in your home at the time of the incident in question. So, at once. Witness testimony? The Battle of Garrideb. Yes, on the day in question you're referring to, the wife and I did have a bit of a skirmish. Don't recall the reason now. It might be worth pressing on. I knocked a candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out though and put the window open. Okay, that makes sense. Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him. Might be worth pressing to see if she got any more details on that. Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say I'd notice if 1 or 2 went missing, I'm afraid. If that bally thing in the victim's back really was one of ours, we'll have a job proving it, I think. We need to find the missing piece of the, blade. Sounds as though it was quite the battlefield in your household that evening. Although an entirely one-sided assault, it seems. The enemy quarters on the hop, sir. Had no choice but to dig in and take defensive measures. To be honest, if the enemy had kept shelling us for another minute, we'd have been toast. Of course, a veteran such as myself is only too aware that on every battlefield, you're just a gnat's whisker from death at any moment. Are we still talking about a marital quarrel here? Well, I must say I'm dubious that the testimony will shed any light on the origins of this jackknife. In combat, one's focus narrows such that surroundings are barely noticed. These witnesses may not be able to offer anything more than they have testified already. This may be a dead end. And Sykes may well be right. Whatever the chances. We only have this last cross-examination to uncover the truth, Mr. Naruhodo. How do you know it's the last? Yes, I'm afraid so. Very well, Counsel. Begin your cross-examination. So was it 1 and 3 I wanted to look into? The Battle of Garadip. Yes, on the day you're referring to, the wife and I did have a bit of a skirmish. Can't recall the reason now. It's the reason I left her. Might be relevant. The reason is what you told us yesterday, I believe. Yes, that's right. If I remember correctly, it all started because of a note that was tucked into the pages of a book belonging to Mr. Garadip. Yeah, it's the note. That's the important bit. Rather passionate note, in fact. But Mrs. Garadip found the note discovering her husband's little secret. And she gave him a mighty number of slaps across the face for it, too. What a sordid state of affairs. Hell on earth. I say, when a chap says he can't recall such things, it's common decency not to drag it all up. Besides, half of it was, wide of the mark, anyway. A likely story. These waters run very deep. And what transpired next after these multiple blows to the face? Okay, let's go with the middle one then. Knocked a candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out though, and got the window open. Makes sense of what we know. Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him. Maybe we can get more from you from that. Even though the room was on fire, as far as I was concerned at the time, it was more important to extinguish my anger than the flames. When a woman wants to throw, she must throw. That is most certainly not true of a Susato takedown, Mr. Naruhodo. How did she know I was thinking that? So, please cast your mind back and try to remember. Was a knife among the items that you threw at your husband that day? In all honesty, I don't recall. But I feel I must point out that I'm no monster. Let me see. Some bread, a cabbage, garlic, a towel and a sponge, a napkin.
Jupiter!
What?
Excuse me!
Do you have something to add, sir? Did she throw the pipe at you? Why are you staring at it? Mr. Garadip. Okay, don't shoot. Sorry, I beg your pardon? Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind? Nothing of any significance, no. Just that the barrage of projectiles, the old thing launched in my direction, was somewhat more solid than she implies. Books, bricks, and the fire poker, I seem to recall. Ouch. The woman's aim is uncanny. Good grief, woman. We're not at home now. This is a court of law. Why would you do that to the pipe? Oh, dearie me. Ever so sorry, dear. What's she even doing with a teapot in here? It's Britain. Do other nations not carry around teapots? Honestly, John, I would never have thrown such things at you, obviously. Take a look at this, then. How do you suppose this happened, Your pipe, sir. Had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean out with one of her soft projectiles, she did, yes. When I went to pick the thing up, it was broken in two. I'd like to see a sponge do that sort of thing. I see, your pipe was broken. It would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Did he actually... Like, 'cause obviously it's been repaired. Did he accidentally get the end of, like, the switchblade caught up in the bandages? No, I've managed to bandage the thing up for now. You are one to exaggerate, aren't you, dear? I wonder what we should make of this account. Could be important, could be important. The defense believes Mr. Garadip's remarks just now to be of great significance.
Objection!
This war veteran's words only tell us one thing. Betray a fiery wife, and pipes as well as hearts may be broken. Sentimental wisdom, perhaps, but hardly worthy of adding to formal testimony. Indeed. Common sense, one might say. Might one? In that case, would you at least permit us to examine the pipe, sir?
Well, I don't see why not.
Oh, dearie me. There you go again, trying to ingratiate yourself with a young lady. Very well. The court will accept the gentleman's pipe as evidence. Pipe has been entered into the court record. Alright. I hope I didn't speak out of turn, Mr. Naruhodo. No, completely fine. I was just feeling rather disappointed for you that your request was turned down. Oh, no, it's fine. Thanks to Susato-san, we have some new evidence to work with. We should examine it carefully. Well, thank you for that rebuttal, Mr. Garrett. Now, if we could return to the crux of the matter. What can you tell the court about the knife used to attack the victim? Alright, let's actually look here at that. So, pipe. Mr. Garrett's pipe. Apparently it fell to the floor during a domestic dispute he had with his wife and broke. So it's like, well, clearly it's been chipped. Clearly there. There's a small nick out of the ball here. Look, it appears to have been made relatively recently. Let's see how there are little scrapes and dents all over it. It's clearly a well-loved pipe. Yes, you're right. Seems to me recently that being well-loved goes hand in hand with getting some battle scars. This particular nick is catching my eye, though, because it's clearly new. Looks to be in a sorry state with the bandage around it, doesn't it? For some reason, it feels slightly ominous to me, like it's trying to shout out a warning. Probably because it's the same blue as Mr. Garredup's dressing gown. Because it must have considerable sentimental value to Mr. Garredup, given that he's going to the trouble of repairing it like this. Either that, or he can't afford to replace it. Oh. So then the obvious thing, it's got to be inside, isn't it then? Because it's like, it's that sort of thing, like, this is clearly where, like, this is going, but I thought it was just going to be like, a piece was just bandaged up in here, so... Is it genuinely just stuck then? Oh. Something just twinkled inside the chamber of the pipe here. Yes, I saw it. Something's stuck in there, I think. Let's turn it over and give it a shake. What's this? It's a tiny fragment of metal. It looks like the tip of a blade or something. Yeah, we found it. We're done. The tip of a blade? Surely it couldn't be. The fragment of metal has been entered into the court record. A small piece of metal looks like it might be the tip of a knife blade. It was stuck inside the bowl of Mr. Garredup's pipe. The bowl? Is that what that's called? That section is called the bowl. I'd have gone with a cup. Yeah, something like that. So the question is, where can we present this? Let's go back to the beginning. It's that sort of thing, right? Because we need to present it, but when? Yes, on the day you're referring to, the wife and I did have a bit of a skirmish. Can't recall the reason now. Knocked a candlestick over and set fire to the carpet, soon had it out. And I was picking up whatever I could find to throw it in, maybe? Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say I've noticed if one or two went missing, I'm afraid. That bony thing is in the victim box really was one of ours. Did have a job proving it.
Objection!
Mr. Garredup, could I ask you to take a good look at this, please? You can ask, but I can't see a bally thing. You can't? You used to call me Dead-Eyed Deb back in the regiment, of course. That was some time ago now. Even when I'm trying to enjoy a large print book by the fire these days. I struggle to tell a B from a D, a P from a Q, to be honest. Oh, he does. Dearie me, it's rather wearing, being asked about every other letter in every other word. You must be very because I want to say busy, but it's like, in my head, it seems like it's dizzy. Like, busy, dizzy. Because then it comes out as dizzy, so it's like... What is that? A tiny scrap of metal? Yes, almost certainly from the tip of a blade. And what may appear at first to be just a tiny scrap is in fact a crucial piece of evidence. Interesting. And where did the defense come by this evidence? It was lodged in the chamber of Mr. Garrideb's pipe. By pipes, you say? By Jove! I wonder how that got there. And what precisely does this fragment of metal signify, Counsel? Are you suggesting that it is in some way related to the matter of the stabbing on Briar Road? I am. What? When put together with another piece of evidence already in the court record, I believe this tiny fragment of metal will unravel the whole truth of this case, my lord. Quite. You appear rather confident in that extraordinary statement, Counsel. Very well then, present the pertinent evidence to the court. What evidence, when paired with this fragment of metal, already reveals the truth for this entire case? The jackknife.
Take that!
And part, eh? This is the knife that was found in the victim's back. If you look closely, you will see that there is a small piece of the tip of the blade that is missing. A common issue with the inferior blades sold at unsavory street markets. Criminals who use them regularly leave the tips lodged in their victims' bones. What of this particular knife? No doubt its tip has suffered a similar fate, now languishing somewhere near the spine of the victim.
Objection!
No, that's not the case. The tip of this particular knife's blade is the very fragment of metal we discovered in the chamber of Mr. Garrideb's pipe. Good grief, Lord Van Zykes. I don't believe it. The knife from the crime scene and this fragment of metal. A perfect match. Good golly gosh. Some sort of Eastern sorcery? This is no magic, my lord. This is a miracle. A miracle? So Van Zykes has figured it out, has he? Counsel, explain this extraordinary coincidence at once. Yes, my lord. The crucial point we have to ask ourselves here is when did the fragment of metal find its way inside Mr. Garrideb's pipe? On the way out the window. Something that was clarified for us in the most recent witness testimony. I had this thing in my hands as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it out clean out with one of her soft projectiles she did. It would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Oh, dearie me. During the argument between these two that occurred just as the victim was on the pavement below, Mrs. Garrideb flung this knife at her husband. However, the knife missed Mr. Garrideb instead of striking the pipe in his hand at the time, which caused the tip to break off, of course. Good lord. Yes, and that is when the tiny tip of the blade found its way inside Mr. Garrideb's pipe. But the chances of that are 1,000,000 to 1. And yet there's no other credible explanation for how the tip of the blade ended up in your pipe. Then, after losing its tip, the knife ricocheted off the pipe and flew out of the open window. In short, this knife which fell from the window of the Garrideb's house was the very same knife that struck the victim in the middle of the back on the street below. Oh gosh, oh dear, oh no! I didn't realise he was burnt on the back as well. I mean, he was sat down during the time, so... Crushed? A full-bodied theory, I'll give you that. A complex bouquet of seemingly trivial points plausibly arranged to create an almost passable vintage. Allow me to toast my learned friend's characteristically Nipponese approach to bottling his argument. Sorry? But after all, it is just a theory. The bottle, I fear, is corked. Because you see, it's spoilt by an insurmountable inconsistency. An insurmountable... What? Lord Van Zykes, explain yourself. What is this inconsistency you claim to have identified? An inconsistency of the simplest nature, my lord. The victim was found with a knife planted in the middle of her back. Yes, in her... Her? That's right, you silly little man. Now, Joan, old thing, what are you getting so excited about? Let us consider the basic facts of the case once more. The victim was walking along the pavement before being stabbed in the back and falling to the ground. It's gonna be like, how did it get her in the back? She was picking up the book. If the knife that struck her had fallen from above... Oh, there we go. There's no possible way it could have planted itself into the victim's back. Again, just look at the back of him. Order. Quite right, you see. That's exactly right. The knife had fallen on her from above. It would have struck her on the top of her head. Oh, he is lost for words, look. I knew it. I never liked his theory in the first place. I don't know, though. What really did happen? It appears the defense has made rather a spectacular blunder. If a theory has even one inconsistency, it cannot stand. Your theory, my learned friend, is history. We're so close. I could see the truth. I was so sure we were on the right track. Now the way has been blocked completely. For just one simple inconsistency. Or in other words, we simply need to eliminate that one inconsistency and the theory will stand. Miss Suzuto. You mustn't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. You were just caught off guard, that's all. And your mind went blank. But the path you're on is indeed correct. And a way will present itself. The key to this is in the court record, I'm sure. All the information you need is there. The book... Seems you have nothing to say, my Nipponese friend. Well, silence speaks volumes. Of books. Volumes of books, you see. A tacit acceptance that your theory is fatally flawed.
Objection!
This inconsistency doesn't mean I was on the wrong track. It means that I need to sharpen my mind and dig deeper for the truth. It's a test. Yes. If the knife fell on the victim from above, there's no way that it could have hit her head in the middle of her back. If the knife fell on the victim from above, there's no way that it could have hit her in the middle of her back. Under normal circumstances, that is. What are you implying? Counsel? There is a piece of evidence in the court record that can explain this inconsistency. That can explain how the knife that fell from above could have pierced the victim's back. We already have the answer. Goodness. Utter madness. Surely this must be the last time. Counsel, present the evidence of which you speak. This is the last inconsistency, the final piece of the puzzle. I can successfully make sense of this. The truth will be laid bare at last. The evidence that explains how the falling knife became lodged in the victim's back is the lion's pride.
Take that!
Right? This, the fourth book found at the scene. This is the final piece of evidence that the defense will present. Oh! The pursuit music. The burnt book. Is that not Mr. Garadev's book? Yes. And to understand its significance, we have to consider how it came to be at the scene in the first place. This photographic print clearly shows the book in question. And the victim holding it in her hand could have presented the picture. But as we all know, it was the police constable that put the book between her fingers like that. Quite so. As part of this wholesale transplanting of the crime scene to the opposite side of the road. That's true. However, as part of his testimony, Constable Beat made an extremely enlightening statement on that point. But what made you place that book in the victim's hand? Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it. When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding that book. So, when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. In other words, the victim had already picked up the book of her own volition. And clearly, it must have been before she suffered the knife wound. Well, I should say so. After being attacked with a knife, I don't imagine she'd ever doing much of anything. So the question becomes, why did the victim have that book in her hand? Wait, Jinka. I think I'm beginning to see what may have happened now. Oh, dearie me. We know that the book fell from the top floor of the Garadev household onto the pavement below, precisely the moment that the victim was walking past. Yes, exactly that moment. The young woman was walking along the street in the light fog, when all of a sudden, the book fell right in front of her. The book I threw. Yes, Mrs. Garadev. What do you think the woman did? What would you do if you were walking along and suddenly a book landed in front of you on the pavement? Well, I really can't imagine it, but I suppose she might have reached down and picked the book up? Yes, that is exactly what the woman in fact did. She picked up the book. Oh heavens. And when the woman reached down to pick the fallen book up, what position would her back have been in? That's right. Facing the sky, completely and utterly defenseless. Then, in the very next moment, while the woman was still bent over picking up the book, the next object fell from the room above, the jackknife, straight into the middle of her back. And at that same time, walking by chance directly behind Mrs. Green, was the defendant, Miss Soseki Natsumi. Wait, he wasn't on the other side? I was still convinced he wasn't there. Well, I never. It appeared to Mr. Natsumi, the woman simply collapsed on the floor. In the dark and the fog, he didn't see the knife falling on her from above. And from the other direction, the constable and his wife saw no one but the victim and her apparent attacker. So there never was a real culprit to run from the scene in the first place. No, this was nothing more than a series of unlikely events that culminated in an unfortunate accident. And that is the real truth behind this case. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Garadev? The very first time you showed me that knife, I had my suspicions. I wondered if perhaps it might have been something like that. There had all been. Poor Mrs. Garadev. Of course, I never meant for anything of the sort to happen, but it's all my fault, wasn't it? I take full responsibility. I let my anger get the better of me. I threw that book, and I threw the knife as well. John, dear. It's all right, I know. I'm ever so sorry. Truly. I'm sorry. Oh, there she goes. Ah, good on you, old sport. Probably see his bird there now. Oh, dear. Lord Van Zykes, what news of Mrs. Garrideb? He's been taken to the infirmary. It would appear that today's events have left her in an especially flustered state. However, I believe she will recover in due course. There is no cause for concern. Yes, unbeknownst to themselves, they caused what could easily have been a terrible tragedy. They shall have to bear themselves with the consequences of their actions. There is some good news, however, my lord. I have just had word from the hospital where the victim is being treated. Her condition is improving steadily, and the doctor believes she will regain consciousness soon. Good news? It's strange. We've been talking about the victim all this time, but we've never once met her. How wonderful. The woman is out of danger, it seems. Yes, that is good news. So, Miss Oseki Natsumi. Yes? On behalf of my fellow countrymen, I would like to take this opportunity to beg your pardon, sir. You came from your distant eastern homeland to study our great British culture, and have been repaid with immeasurable kindness. Please accept our heartfelt apologies. No, it is me who should be begging your pardon. Oh no, Mr. Natsumi. That evening, when the young woman just collapsed on the pavement before my eyes, I jumped to the wrong conclusions again in my confusion. What conclusions, sir? I was sure that the woman was dead. Yes, Constable Beat said the same thing, didn't he? Thought she had been killed too. I suppose she must have looked completely lifeless. It's been about a year since I arrived in Great Britain now, but I still can't get used to life here. I can't relax. Sure, there are evil spirits lurking in the fog, like they're haunting me. Poor Saseki-san. His imagination really has got the better of him. Yes, poor man. So when it happened, I thought the young woman had been taken by the fog spirits. I should never have dropped my books like that and run away. I should have called for help, or a doctor, for the police. Instead, I've managed to create a rift in the relationship of trust between our two empires. And for that, I am truly sorry. One could indeed say that some sort of mischievous spirit has been at work here, I think. One that created a chain of unfortunate mishaps. They were befooled by the spirit and led to false conclusions. But thanks to Lord Van Zykes and our young lawyer here from the east, that chain has now been broken and the spirit exorcised. I heartily commend you both. Oh. Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Yes, madam. In concluding this trial, I must ask one last time for your decisions regarding the defendant's culpability. Are you ready to present your findings to the court? As the foreman of this jury, I can assure you we've reached a fair and just conclusion. I do declare the truth can be extremely cruel at times. Well, I didn't suspect the woman next to me, that's for sure. Stinging in for the old bean while she is out of action, you know, but I know what her decision would be. Does this mean I finally be able to get out of here and start work? It's about time. I say, I'll have a call for a story to tell the grandchildren when I get home, won't I? There we are, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Hereby demand your final decisions. Mr. Foreman?
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Very well, Mr. Sasaki Natsumi, I hereby pronounce you not guilty, sir. Yes, quite. Oh, lovely confetti, yay! I do wonder where they got these fireworks from. And why they're setting off them inside the Old Bailey. Didn't the Old Bailey burn down at one point? And finally, Mr. Natsumi. Oh yes, Lord Sir. You are now a free man once more. It is my hope that you will continue to further your education of British culture. And may you never again be brought before me. Oh yes, sir. Of course. On my life, I swear I'll never set foot in a courtroom again. I'm transported to tears. Thank you, counsels. Court is adjourned. 20th of February, 3:17 p.m. The Old Bailey. Defendants antechamber. Oh, locum. Wait, you mean me? Of course. Is there any other locum here? Is there even one? Compared to the original locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, your name has become rather short, hasn't it? What's wrong with using my actual name? Oh, at last, I'm free, I'm free! Joyful, joyous, jubilant, jubilation. Heady, hearty happiness, hurrah. Oh, I am pleased. Mr. Natsumi is delighted. To be so hard just to say that, then? Locum, you did it. You saved me from the brink. Well, what happened to the poor woman was in no way your fault, after all. I'm just glad everyone can see that now. No, not that. Lovely, loyal, locum lawyer. Yes? I mean, as I said before, I've just never got used to life here in Great Britain. Every time I look over my shoulder, I see foreigners. I see towering brick buildings. And from high up windows, I see them looking down on me laughing. Look at the little hunchback. Oh dear, I'm sure it's all in your head, Mr. Natsumi. But today, you, locum lawyer, gave me my gloom the boot. You stood firm behind that baronial bench before those babbling British. You battled to the bitter end, laying bare the baffling truth. When I beheld the blinding fireworks among the beams of the Bailey's roof, I bellowed, "Behold the best barrister ever born." Well, that's very flattering, and I'm very pleased for you. This has given me a wonderful anecdote to recount to my old friends back in Japan. An anecdote? Is that what's to become of all my hard work? Ah, there you are, my dear fellows. Where have you been? I apologize for keeping you waiting. I rose late this morning. Oh, Mr. Shlomes, what a pleasure to see you. I see I'm here not a moment too soon. A disaster has been averted, I'm glad to say. Oh. The trial shall begin presently, Mr. Naruhodo, and I wish you the very best of luck. It's just finished. What? No! My haste was in vain. It's Herr Lock Shlomes. Oh, have we met, sir? This is Mr. Natsumi, the man you had arrested, Mr. Shlomes. Ah, I see. I failed to recognize you at first. Our previous encounters have taken place in the room, either of your bleak lodgings or that prison cell. I simply couldn't place that curious face in the light. Charming. This is all your fault, Herr Lock Shlomes. You're the reason I had to go through this terrible ordeal. I'm going to give you peace of my mind. My apologies, sir, but I assure you, I have placed you now. You're the fellow who abandoned that poor young lady and ran off, are you not? Ah. Had she been taken to hospital more urgently, I feel perhaps she would have regained consciousness by now. Oh. But it was unavoidable, I'm sure. We are but human after all. Anyone would have been shaken by such an experience. I do feel very badly about how I behaved. Well, never mind. Now then, what was it you wanted to say to me, sir? Nothing. priceless. Oh, I am sorry, really, but that was quite priceless. Poor Sasaki-san. Still, on the bright side, you've had an extremely entertaining experience without paying a penny. And it would seem you were not even found guilty. But there is no bright side. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Natsumi? Even after this, I'm still cursed by the spirits and now by the Reaper. Lord Van Zykes. I haven't forgotten, you know, what facing that man in court means. Even if you're found not guilty, you're still doomed. It'll all be right, Mr. Natsumi. If the Reaper appears trying to make trouble, I will protect you. I am. Oh, God. With a perfect... And he executed Suzuto's takedown. Much as I like being turned on my head, a bit of warning might be nice next time, Miss Suzuto. So, Mr. Natsumi, what do you intend to do now? You mentioned something about recounting your experiences to your friends back in Japan? Look at him looking around. Yes, I intend to return to my homeland soon. Oh! It has already been a year since I arrived here in Great Britain. I visited universities, libraries, bookshops, been honoured with the tutelage of professors. I've learned so much about the wealth of literature here and the city it has shaped. And I've come to realize that it's my calling to sail home and tell my fellow countrymen about it. That's very touching, Mr. Natsumi. Or, in perhaps less veiled terms, you wish to withdraw halfway around the world to escape the terror of the Reaper's curse. That's not it at all. The more I learn of literature, the more this strange feeling claws in my insides. Feel compelled to return to my roots and attempt to pen a work of my own. Oh, I see. A work of literature by Soseki-san. Could be an interesting read. And what about Miss Suzuto and yourself, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry? What about us? Will you return to Japan alongside your mustached compatriot? Why would we? A week has not yet passed since we arrived in London. And only now does it feel as though we have finally found our feet. And you are accommodated in a hotel at present, are you not? That's right, but we need to find lodgings before it bankrupts us. I've calculated we can only afford another 10 nights before our entire budget is exhausted. Well then, you can take my lodgings. Oh, the windowless room. But it lacks in windows. It more than makes up for with a floor and a ceiling and walls. Great. And of course, I'd be happy to leave behind the accursed evil spirit. Oh my, an evil spirit? Oh yes. It tries to suffocate you while you sleep. It's an infallible wake-up call. Well, we'll think about it, if that's alright. Perhaps I can offer a more welcome alternative. Would you consider taking lodgings with me? Really? Well, a vacancy has conveniently presented itself. Though it's up in the attic, I might add. Are you sure it isn't just a storage loft? I spoke with the landlady this very morning on the matter of price, and Iris is cleaning the room as we speak. You must come at once. I presume you have no luggage to speak of? Oh, this is simply wonderful. What an honor to be invited to take lodgings in the great detective's office's attic. I'm too overcome for words. So suggesting we look elsewhere is out of the question, then. And it's settled. Alice will prepare a welcome dinner this evening. And you must come too, Mr. Natsumi. I insist. I don't know what to say. But thank you. And yes. Wonderful. Then I'll go and complete the paperwork for your formal release, Mr. Natsumi. I shan't take long. Somebody's happy. Locum, I knew that you wouldn't let me down. I'm truly delighted to have met you here in London. Likewise, Mr. Natsumi. It's been a privilege meeting you too. It's a shame that we're going to have to say goodbye so soon. Well, I come to realize that I belong in Japan. But Locum, we'll meet again one day. Yes, I'm sure. And hopefully by then, I'll be a successful lawyer. Hopefully by then, I'll be a successful author. Oh, my dear fellow, our carriage appears to have arrived. Shall we go, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, Mr. Shlomes. I have a little doubt Mr. Natsumi will be released in time for dinner this evening. And so, Mr. Seki-san's innocence successfully established, we rode with Mr. Shlomes to what was to become our new home, 221B, Baker Street. February, 4:41 p.m. The attic room. So this... It's to be our new office, yes. Our office? I rather like the sound of that. We need a plant. Call it Charlie. Me too. It's simply wonderful, isn't it? I hope you can see this, Kazuma. It's only a small step. But I'd like to think we're getting a little closer to your dream now. So, my dear fellows, you like the place? Oh, my. Ah, Mr. Shlomes. Yes, thank you so much. You look rather dignified, don't you? It's a delightful room, Mr. Shlomes. I simply adore it. Good. Pleased to hear it. Iris and I are delighted to welcome you. I hope everyone's hungry. It's nearly time for dinner. We'll eat as soon as Mr. Natsumi arrives. We have a lot to celebrate. Iris, just let me help you. Alright then, Susie. You can be in charge of the salad. Splendid. So, Mr. Naruhodo, how does it feel to have your own office in the capital? It's very exciting, actually. I can't help wondering what adventures await us. Those were precisely my sentiments when I first established my office at these premises. Until I discovered the dark truth about the city of London, that is. Sorry? London is a glorious place, full of wonder, opportunity, prosperity, and mirth. But the brightest of lights casts the darkest of shadows. Shadows? What do you mean? Well, I believe you're well aware of the murkiness that lies behind London's facade already. So, once again, Mr. Naruhodo, welcome to London. Why did you say it like that? Of course, at the time, I had no idea of the significance of those words Mr. Shlomes so casually spoke. But it wasn't long before my turn came to lift the facade and see the true depth of the murk that lay behind it. That's the end of that chapter then. Or episode? Episode. It's episodes, isn't it? So, we'll obviously end this part here, and the next part we'll get on with the next episode. Say no for now. Which is going to be the Hound of the Baskervilles. Indeed. So we'll see you in the next part. Ta-ta for now.